So today I'm here with Ian Humphreys, the co-founder of Brickflow, a new online search engine for development finance loans, which launched in October. The platform aims to connect borrowers and lenders within seconds and provide property developers with an easy way to secure finance. Ian, why did you decide that this was needed in the development market?
We felt that commercial real estate and more specifically finance within that sector was probably one of the few sectors that has been largely untouched by technology. So we felt there was just a lot of inefficiencies in the market, and the general consensus in the market. I mean, no one really likes trying to find development finance. I mean, it's very hard for borrowers. Brokers don't like it, lenders don't like it. It's a very arduous process. So we felt that there was technology that was proven in other industries that could be adapted and utilized and brought into the commercial real estate space and just make everyone's life a bit better, really. So that was the main reason for doing it, and really sort of like the bigger reason that underpins everything that we do is to help the country build more houses. That's what it comes back to, is that if it's easier to find finance, we can all just get on with building more houses, if we're not having to spend months trying to find the right finance. And I think, if you look at the FMB annual survey, which I'm sure you're aware of, Federation of Master Builders, they survey SMEs every year and say, what is your biggest bugbear? And the top two things are planning and finance. We can't do anything about the planning system, but we felt we could do something about finance. So yeah, that's the thinking behind the platform.
Obviously, it's early days. It was the end of October that Brickflow launched. But what has the reaction been like since then from developers and lenders a month on?
Really good, really positive. I mean, we were obviously working with lenders for a long period before the launch, and likewise, we were working with developers as well to sort of get their feedback and understand where the platform needed to go, the direction it needed to head in to solve the problems that both sides have, both borrowers and lenders. So we spent a good time with both sides to understand their grievances and how we could make it better and more streamlined for both. So everyone that has seen it since the launch has been really positive. I mean, we've had probably what I'd call fan mail from people saying, oh my God, you've changed my life. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I mean, it really has been quite overwhelming. Some of the things that people. I remember there's a lady from Northern Ireland who actually was sent such a gushing email. It was really quite made you a bit emotional almost. But yeah, it's been really positive. We've had quite a few lenders reach out to us and ask to be part of the platform. So we've actually got a bit of a waiting list at the moment for people to come on. But overall couldn't have gone better.
I was going to say as well, you launched with access to 18 lenders, and now you're saying that you've got a waiting list. How will you be expanding this next year? What kind of size in terms of how many lenders you kind of aspire to be working with?
Yeah, I think it's always a case of ensuring that we meet the demands of the borrowers. So we'll bring lenders on when we feel there's a gap that needs filling. So the lenders that we started with were kind of lenders that we knew and trusted, and then as we broaden the product range of the platform, then obviously other lenders will need to come in. I think also as well, what we're really keen to emphasize is the integrity of the platform. We want to be working with really good quality lenders, lenders we know that are going to provide a good service to borrowers. The industry, there are still some bad apples out there. perhaps, and you know, some people unfortunately sort of trust their sort of development with lenders that you know, perhaps don't have their best interests at heart, and you know, we take our role in this part of the process quite seriously. You know, we're there to make sure that the lenders that borrowers use are the right lenders, you know, and not to say that we're, you know, the development finance police or anything. We're not, but you know, we're there to make sure that if somebody has a very good marketing campaign, there's actually something behind it, you know. So we are very careful when we onboard people, lenders, I mean, that we're to understand their funding lines, you know, how their funding lines are structured, to ensure that, you know, it isn't just you know, that there is substance beneath the surface.
Absolutely, I think that's really important at the moment. It's just a responsibility that I think that you know, everyone should have in this market to make sure that it's transparent, especially with committed funding like you were talking about. You mentioned just then that, you know, you have access to 18 lenders, and it has quite a broad spectrum of different types of finance. Does that cover, is it just senior debt, or do you cover mezzanine and stretch senior?
Correct. Yeah, so just senior at the moment. So senior, stretch senior. The loan sizes, I mean, the majority of the lenders on the platform are sort of the, you know, 1.5, 2 million plus size. So we recognize that we probably need to serve the sub 1.5 million space a little better than we currently are. And we have plans to do that. We have, you know, lenders that we're working with to kind of bring on to serve that need. You know, what we were keen to do is cover all geographies. So, you know, we can cover everywhere in the UK, which is great. You know, sometimes developers in Scotland, Wales, Northern Ireland, you know, perhaps even places like East Anglia, you know, are just not that well served. So we were really keen to sort of give national coverage, and also, you know, a good size or good range of loans. So we've got, I think the smallest loan you can get on the platform is 150,000, and the biggest is 100 million. So we've got like a full range there, so we could deal with, you know, small HMO developers right up to, you know, a regional house builder, really, you know, on the platform as it is today.
Let's dive into a bit more on the actual technology behind Brickflow and how it works. Yeah. I understand that it aims to help lenders see more loan inquiries that they would consider funding, which I'm aware of as being something which slows lenders down when they get, you know, a lot of applications which don't really sit into their credit box, so to speak. So yeah. How does the system work, and will this, do you expect that this will increase development finance loan conversion rates?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's really one of the main aims of the platform. So when we were doing our market research, we spent time sitting down with, you know, the heads of development finance departments at, you know, the big challenger banks, you know, specialist development funds, and we said, you know, what is your conversion rate? And there was, you know, everyone had a different answer, but a couple of people said they thought it was 1 in 10, but I think that was almost said out of embarrassment for how bad the conversion rates generally are, because then somebody else said it was about 1 in 100, and there was everything in between. And I think the 1 in 100 was slightly tongue-in-cheek, but I think we ended up sort of settling on a number of about 1 in 25. That was kind of the number that people seem to agree on and nod along with when it was suggested. So, you know, if you put that into context, that's 4% of the time you're only working on, or 4% of inquiries are only going somewhere. You know, 96% are going nowhere. And you know, for a lender, I mean, that's a huge resource. You know, time, money, effort. You know, to sort of deal with, and you know, we in our head, we just thought, well, look, what if you improve from 1 in 25 to 1 in 3 or 1 in 2? You know, what would that mean for the industry? Well, no, immediately development finance should be cheaper because it's cheaper for the lender to source, which is great, because a site that's a marginal site at the moment because of the cost of the funding and the build costs, all of a sudden maybe becomes a profitable scheme. So you unlock pockets of land that just aren't feasible at the moment because of the cost of development finance. So, you know, that's really the way we're trying to look at it. And when we push the sort of lenders on understanding why that conversion rate's so low, there was two main reasons really. And firstly is the sort of criteria that lenders have. You know, it's not published, it's not somewhere, there's not a money supermarket you can go to and punch in, you know, my loan to value and whatever, and it tells you who the best lender is. So, you know, a lot of lenders are saying perhaps half or maybe even more of the inquiries they get are just so far removed from what's possible. So what the borrower wants and what the lender can deliver are just poles apart. So, you know, straight away you can probably get rid of the half or if not more of those inquiries just by, you know, just by publishing criteria or making that criteria widely available. And then the sort of second big problem was presentation. And this sounds a bit silly to perhaps, you know, someone who doesn't work in the industry, but the presentation of information can be horrifically bad. You know, it can be as bad as one spreadsheet with a few numbers on it, and, you know, can you fund this, through to, you know, a very good comprehensive presentation, and again everything in between. And what I think is important to understand for borrowers is that, you know, if you're a lender that's got 25 inquiries in their inbox and they know that 24 of them are probably not going to go anywhere, now which ones do they gravitate towards? The ones where it takes them 2 weeks to get all the information they need, you know, back and forth on emails, you know, they get 20 emails on one case, attachments everywhere. You know, then they look at the spreadsheets and they understand that there's a summing error. They go back for more questions. So after 2 weeks, they've then got everything that they need, and then look at it and go, oh no, we can't do this. Incredibly frustrating for a lender. So you know, the way that we looked at it was that actually if you can present things properly, correctly, first time, all the information they need to make a credit decision in a very concise presentation that's exactly the same every time, you know, so the lender can look at it and knows where to look for this figure and that figure, and they can make much easier, much quicker decisions, and that's again for everyone's benefit. So, you know, lenders are saying to us that they can get a presentation from us and within half an hour, 45 minutes, they can say, yeah, it's one we can do, here's a heads of terms. You know, that process can sometimes take 2 weeks, you know, when presentations aren't correct. So it's a huge time saver for everyone.
I assume this is a template that you provide and the developers.
Better than that, Beth. Better than that. It's actually a step-by-step guide on the platform. So you essentially create a search. You search for your funding. So that's stage one. So think of it as a kind of two-stage filter. So you've got stage one where you search for the most appropriate loans, and we categorize lenders based on the most closely matched to your requirements. Okay, so we look at a lot of metrics. We collect a huge number of data points from lenders. You know, a number that most lenders are very surprised at, and we filter that or we fed that into our algorithm, which then rates the lenders based on their ability to do that loan. Okay, now we all know that there's a lot of assumptions off a basic search that can't be satisfied at that stage. So what we then invite borrowers to do is complete a project appraisal, project presentation in the platform. So it's very simple, you know, online property schedule, property appraisal, but also a developer profile. So think of this as like a developer CV. So what that does is it enables developers to go in, put in their previous experience, professional experience, developments they've built before, and that's a CV that's then stored in Brickflow. So going forward, you know, any site that they're looking at, you know, that CV is already there. They don't have to fill out a different form for every lender. It's the same thing goes to everyone. And then that presentation can be sent to the lender, and they've got, like I say, they've got a case overview, an appraisal, a schedule, the developer CV, all in one place, and very quickly. And we've done all the numbers on pound per square foot, build costs. You know, we've run all that analysis as well, and very quickly the lender has, you know, a complete picture of the scheme and the borrower, which is the most important thing, as you know. You know, we could have the best scheme in the world, but if the borrower's not up to scratch, you're not going to get the funding. So it's search, select, and then showcase. That's the way we look at it: is search for your loan, select a lender, and then showcase your project and yourself to that lender.
It's quite an interesting point that you made earlier as well about, you know, how cases are presented, and I think, as well as, you know, how it's presented either by a borrower or a broker, it's also difficult for them because every different lender wants different things at that stage as well. So I assume an element of this will just bring more standardization across the sector.
Yeah, yes. I mean, I think at the early stages, I mean, absolutely at application stage, people do want a different application form and they want different, you know, documentation. But, you know, 95% of it is the same, albeit it's laid out in a different way. So, yeah, I mean, the idea would be is that, you know, you have sort of standardized documentation, because that would make things a lot easier for everyone. But that's not just the paperwork. I mean, that would be loan documentation as well. You know, if there was the loan security papers that lenders used, if there was more uniformity across everyone there, that would also be you know, a big time saver for everyone. So at the early stages, you know, the presentations that we put together satisfy all the lenders on the platform. You know, they've all looked at it and they're happy with what we're providing.
We've obviously talked a lot about, you know, access to funding and how Brickflow will help, but how else will the system support SME developers?
Yeah, so we are currently looking to build out a professional services directory. So a lot of borrowers will come to us and say, look, you know, I'm looking at a site here, or I already own a site in this location. You know, what do you know somebody that does this? And it could be they need a contractor or they need a QS. So we've started building that database. But I think where also we really add value is perhaps to the SMEs that don't necessarily have the experience that a lender expects for that project. So you might have somebody that's relatively new to development. So perhaps they've done 1 or 2 smaller projects and they're looking to do number 3. And perhaps they've not borrowed before. Or you've got somebody perhaps has done, you know, 4, 5, 6 developments, but is going from, you know, development sizes maybe 10 or 12, and the next one they're looking at is 40. And that's obviously a big leap for funding or for funders to get comfortable with. So, you know, what we'll always do is we'll have a consult with borrowers, and we'll you know, try and let them understand what a lender is going to be looking for from them. So if there's a weakness in your team, how can we plug it? Yeah. And that might be, you know, you might have an estate agent, you know, good example. We speak to quite a few people that have an agency background. So they're really good at the site finding, they're really good at the sales and marketing at the end, but the construction piece in the middle is a bit of a mystery to them. So, you know, a good contractor, a good project manager, they're definitely the people that you want to be introducing into your team, your power team, as the industry tends to call it. So, you know, perhaps you want to incentivize those people, performance incentives, to give the lender comfort that, you know, they're going to be in it with you to the end, come what may. You know, I think all lenders have that fear, you know, of contractor walking off site partway through. So, you know, part of the job is to find funding, but, you know, almost as big a part is to sort of coach people into understanding, you know, what they need to do to de-risk the transaction for a lender, but it's also de-risking the transaction for them as well, right? If it's good for the lender, it's good for them. And that's what you want really, is as a developer, you want to be in a position where you can sleep at night knowing that, you know, this is going to be built to how you want it to be built. So we spend a lot of time speaking to people, you know, trying to get them to understand how a lender looks at these things and why introducing certain people into the team is a good idea. So our content and this sort of professional services directory, this database that we have and we're going to continue to add to, are very strong attributes, I think, to the central proposition.
I'm sure that's extremely welcomed, especially during these times when, you know, working together has never been more important with, you know, with the lockdowns that happened over the year and things like that, which have slowed down things, especially with social distancing. Finally, obviously our readers are a mix of brokers and developers. So the advice part is obviously of interest to our readers, and it's incredibly important for all parts of development finance. How will Brickflow work with brokers and advisors going forward?
No, absolutely. The advice part is really important. So we actually are working on a broker proposition, which I can't go into too many details right now, but will be something that we'll be talking about more in Q1 of next year. So we have some brokers that are lined up for a pilot program, and we'll be testing some quite rigorous testing that we'll be undertaking over the next few months, getting ready to launch that in Q1 next year.